Yeah, how you doing, sir?
It sounded like an ordinary greeting, but after 40 years, there was nothing ordinary about this moment. Detectives had finally tracked him down. The past had caught up, and the man standing in front of them had no idea what was about to unfold.
Yeah, we just have to verify who we're talking to so we make sure we have the right investigation going. Do you have your ID? Do you have an ID?
I have a military ID.
This was the moment they had been chasing for decades, but this story didn't begin here. It began years earlier, on a quiet September morning, when a delivery driver noticed something in the bushes. At first, it looked like a mannequin. It wasn't. It was a young girl.
The blood stains are here and on the other side of the wall.
That night, 15-year-old Karen Stitt was found dead.
The leaves appear to be pushed back during the struggle.
What followed was a mystery that refused to fade, marked by a brutal attack and almost no answers, turning into a haunting cold case that remained unsolved for nearly 4 decades. All that time, the person responsible lived an ordinary life, never expecting that one day, the truth would find him. On a sunny morning in early September 1982, a truck driver arrived at a local garden center in Sunnyvale, California, to make a delivery. As he passed by a row of bushes near Wolf Road, something unusual caught his eye. At first, it looked like a mannequin lying in the brush, and he didn't think much of it, but a closer look revealed something far more troubling. Hidden between a hedge and a wall was the body of a young girl.
Where the other 2 subjects are standing is about where her body was located.
She was found lying on her side between the bushes and the wall. Investigators carefully documented the scene, even recording a walkthrough on video so they could study every detail later. Personal belongings were scattered nearby: blue jeans, a belt, and several cosmetics.
Object here appears to be a makeup pencil, eyeliner, a brown-colored compact.
Investigators also noticed marks on the wall and nearby surfaces, indicating that a struggle had taken place in that area. The girl had been left without clothing, and her hands and legs had been tied using her own clothes. Disturbed leaves near her feet suggested she had been moved or placed there shortly before being discovered. Investigators determined that she had been the victim of a violent attack. Detectives processed the area with extreme care. They collected branches from the bushes where contact may have occurred, along with soil samples, blood evidence, and every personal item they could find nearby. Among those items was a wallet, partially hidden beneath the victim's body. Inside was a social security card that identified the young girl as Karen Stitt, a 15-year-old student at Palo Alto High School. Karen Stitt was remembered as bright, kind, and full of life. The youngest of 3 children, she had been born prematurely and wasn't expected to survive.
But she was strong, and she grew into a thriving baby and a happy child. So from the very beginning, she was a fighter.
After her parents divorced and her mother took her own life when Karen was 14, she moved from Pittsburgh to California to live with her father and enrolled in Palo Alto High School. By the summer of 1982, the 15-year-old was looking forward to the new school year, new friendships, and her first love. But that promising future would soon be tragically cut short, leaving her family and friends devastated. As police secured the area where Karen had been found, an unexpected person approached the scene. A teenage boy stepped up to the police line, trying to find out what had happened.
The officer eventually asked, well, who are you? What are you doing here? And he said, I'm David Woods, and I was here last night.
He told officers he had been dropping off his girlfriend, Karen Stitt, the night before. David Woods had recently moved to Sunnyvale with his family that summer. Not long after arriving, he met Karen at a mall. She was 15, he was 16, and their relationship began quickly.
I think I could call it a love at first sight. She just really swept me off my feet, and we were just instantly a couple at that point. It was just pure bliss, really.
On the night of September 2nd, 1982, Karen took the number 22 bus from Palo Alto to Sunnyvale to meet David. He picked her up at the bus stop, and the two spent the evening together. They played arcade games at a nearby 7-Eleven, visited a miniature golf course, and later stopped by David's new house, where she briefly met his parents and sister.
After a while, we went back out and just hung out at this little elementary school that was close to the house. We lost track of time a little bit and hustled off toward the bus stop.
Eventually, they realized it was getting late and hurried back toward the bus stop near Wolf Road and El Camino Real. David was already worried about missing his curfew. As they reached the corner where the bus stopped, they said goodnight. Before leaving, Karen playfully took David's baseball cap. It was something she knew he rarely went without, teasing that he could get it back the next day. But by the next morning, something had gone horribly wrong.
I got a call wondering if Karen was still at my place, that she didn't come back last night.
Karen's family and friends were searching for her. She had never returned home. Concerned, David took the bus to Palo Alto, hoping to retrace her route and find out what had happened. But there was no sign of Karen. When he came back to Sunnyvale and saw police tape near the bus stop, officers brought him in for questioning. David Woods had been the last person known to see Karen Stitt alive, and their attention quickly turned to him. During a routine search, they discovered a pocket knife in his possession. Because he had been with Karen the night before, investigators briefly considered whether the knife could be connected to the crime. Detectives began carefully questioning him about the evening. David explained that Karen had come to visit him between 8 and 9 p.m. They spent time together before he walked her toward the bus stop near Wolf Road and El Camino Real.
What's she wearing?
She was wearing her blue jeans, blue and white striped shirt, black satin jacket, no hat.
Before saying goodbye, he had given her his blue baseball cap with a rush patch and music pins attached, the same hat investigators had found near her body.
I gave it to her, but...
You gave it to her when you left where?
Okay. I walked her up to the bus stop. Then I walked home and left her with my hat.
David told detectives he had not waited with her for the bus because he needed to get home before curfew.
You walked her up to the bus stop and then left her there?
Mm-hmm.
Did you wait for the bus with her?
No, I had to go home. So I didn't like doing that.
Detectives pressed him on why he had left Karen alone. He explained that when he walked away, she was still heading toward the bus stop from a nearby restaurant. When investigators asked if they could search his room and examine the clothes he had worn that night, David agreed. It was then that detectives told him the reason for their questions. Karen Stitt had been killed the night before.
It's important for us to know because Karen Stitt was murdered last night.
She was murdered last night?
Yes.
The news left him in shock. For a moment, the reality of it felt impossible to grasp. Detectives examined the clothes he had worn that night, but neither the clothing nor the knife showed any evidence connecting him to the crime. However, investigators noted inconsistencies in his story, including a phone call he described differently to police and to his mother. During questioning, he told detectives the call came from his sister's roommate.
It was her sister's room.
She said why she was looking for Karen.
She was trying to get in the house.
But when his mother asked who had called, David had told her it was Karen herself. He later explained he had said that simply to avoid worrying his mother, but the inconsistency raised concerns for investigators. Meanwhile, evidence from the scene raised another troubling possibility. The amount of blood in the alleyway suggested that the attack may not have happened there. Detectives began to consider whether Karen had been attacked somewhere else and later left in the alley where she was discovered. A witness even reported seeing a distinctive vehicle in the area that night, possibly a truck with a camper shell or a panel van. Officers searched the neighborhood for anything matching that description and eventually located a similar vehicle, but the lead did not produce any answers. For Karen's family, the uncertainty was devastating. Years passed with only occasional updates from investigators, but no clear answers. And whenever the case was revisited, one name often returned to the center of the investigation: David Woods. He had been the last person known to see Karen alive, and for years he remained a primary suspect, even though no physical evidence tied him to the crime. In 2000, a new detective revisited Karen Stitt's case, realizing that modern DNA technology could be applied to the evidence. Blood on Karen's jacket and the alley wall was carefully re-examined. Most stains were smeared, but one small, round blood drop stood out. DNA analysis revealed it belonged to an unknown male, and it matched the blood on the wall above her. Crucially, David Woods was tested against this DNA and was eliminated as the source, finally clearing him after nearly 2 decades of suspicion. The focus now shifted to identifying the unknown man, whose profile was uploaded to CODIS, the national database, but yielded no matches at the time. For Karen's family, hope had slowly faded over the years. As time passed with no answers, the case began to feel like something that might never be solved. David later recalled that it became too painful to talk about, a quiet, unspoken loss that the family learned to live around rather than confront. Then, 35 years after Karen's death, the case was reopened by Detective Matt Hutchison, who had found his calling in cold cases. When he first opened the cold case files, he was met with boxes stacked high, old reports, and decades of silence, each one representing a life lost, a story unfinished. Karen's case stood out immediately. What he didn't know then was just how long and complex this journey would become, spanning 5 years, over 2,500 miles, and involving an unlikely mix of helpers, even going undercover to consult a psychic, all in pursuit of the truth behind Karen Stitt's murder. As Hutchison dug deeper, another unsolved case from the same area caught his attention: the 1979 murder of Estella Mena, an 18-year-old high school student and part-time security guard, found inside an office building in Sunnyvale. The similarities were striking. Both victims were young, both cases had gone cold, and both remained complete mysteries with no clear suspect. It raised a chilling question. Could the same person have been responsible for both killings? And could that connection be the key to finally breaking the silence? Estella Mena worked part-time as a security guard at Western Electric in Sunnyvale and trained in martial arts. Her family and friends saw her as focused and responsible, determined to build a future for herself. On a Saturday in October 1979, after her shift, Estella planned to attend a martial arts competition, but she never made it. An engineer at the facility found her in the lobby, where she had sustained multiple injuries and was the victim of a violent attack. She had fought for her life, leaving a trail of scattered items and blood across the area.
I look at things like the screwdriver in the middle of the room. How does that get there? Why is that there? Does it make any sense? Same with the comb. Same with the shoe.
The scene showed a clear struggle, but no witnesses could identify the attacker.
She didn't have no kind of weapon on her. She didn't have nothing, and she was a security guard, and most security guards do.
Investigators collected what evidence they could, including a small smear of blood on a doorframe near the entrance. At the time, forensic technology could not identify the source, and the case went cold. Over the years, the building closed, original detectives retired, and the trail went cold, leaving Estella's family without answers. Decades later, in 2018, Detective Matt Hutchison took on the cold case. Attention turned to Estella's shoe, which had come off during the struggle. The faint blood on it was unknown DNA, which was entered into CODIS, and this time there was a hit. The DNA belonged to Samuel Silva, a violent felon from Colorado. Silva had lived in Sunnyvale in 1978, just 2 miles from Western Electric, and had previously worked at Great America Amusement Park, where Estella had also worked. Though Silva had died years earlier, Hutchison was able to confirm him as Estella's killer through the DNA evidence. The discovery finally gave her family answers, closing a 39-year-old cold case, even though the perpetrator could no longer be brought to justice. Sadly, the investigation reached a standstill as Samuel Silva was not the one who took Karen's life. Karen Stitt's murderer remained out there, still alive, but Hutchison was closing in, determined to finally bring him to justice. For decades, the identity of 15-year-old Karen Stitt's killer remained a haunting mystery, shadowed only by a single DNA profile that held the key to the truth.
We knew who the killer was, except for his name. We had his DNA profile. We just needed to find a name to match that DNA.
Hutchison sent it to a lab on the East Coast that specializes in forensic genetic genealogy, hoping to match it to relatives. The lab returned 3 very distant relatives, all third cousins. They warned it might be impossible to narrow the family tree to the perpetrator, but Hutch refused to give up. Hutchison began by focusing on the closest matches he could find, 3 third cousins of the unknown killer. Determined, he built the family tree as far as he could, scouring online records. One of those cousins had already created an extensive genealogy, potentially holding crucial leads. But first, Hutch had to convince her to help. She was skeptical at first. Hutch even offered to fly to Texas to meet her in person. When they finally met, Hutch explained who Karen was and why her help was essential. Moved by his dedication, she agreed to assist.
It really struck me. He cared about Karen, he cared about her family, he cared about what happened to her.
Together, they spread the family trees across her kitchen table. All living profiles were blacked out, and Hutch asked her to fill in the blanks. By the end, she had added hundreds of names, each one a potential link in the chain that could finally unmask Karen Stitt's killer. Soon, Hutchison received a call from the lead genealogist with a potential breakthrough. It wasn't the killer yet, but she had identified a person of interest. With the right DNA sample, they could determine whether to trace the suspect's extended family, cousins, uncles, anyone connected. The person lived locally, just 10 minutes away in San Jose, bringing Hutchison one step closer to finally closing in on Karen Stitt's murderer. After a quick trash grab, DNA testing revealed Karen's killer was one of the man's 3 uncles.
So we just took our pool of suspects from millions, and you're never going to solve it, according to the genealogy lab, to there's 3 men in the world that it could be. And I'm bouncing off the walls at this point.
Hutch and his team tracked one uncle in North Las Vegas, collected his trash, and drove it straight to Santa Clara County for testing. The results cleared him, but pointed to one of his brothers. After narrowing the pool to 2 brothers, one in Maine, one in Maui, the detectives needed to confirm which was Karen Stitt's killer. In Hawaii, they first had to verify the suspect's residence without alerting him. Open source research revealed his landlord was a local psychic who conducted palm readings out of the house.
Hey, yo. Hey,
Using the cover of a married couple getting a reading, the detectives visited the home.
Tell me your name again. Corinne. Corinne, and your name is? Matt. Matt. Okay. So he's more sensitive.
Oh, that sounds all right.
As she read their palms, they carefully dropped small hints to see if she would react. Hutch mentioned a brother named Gary and crafted a story about meeting at Fresno State, hoping the psychic might reveal details about the suspect.
She never took any of the bait, she just took our money.
In Maui, it was forbidden to collect trash due to local laws, forcing investigators to return to California and devise a new plan, testing the DNA of the suspect's biological child. They collected the daughter's discarded items, effectively conducting a paternity comparison against the crime scene DNA. The results confirmed the Maui resident as Karen's killer, Gary Ramirez. With that confirmation, the team coordinated with local authorities in Maui to make the arrest. When the detectives finally located Gary Ramirez in Maui, they moved carefully to make the arrest.
Yeah, how you doing, sir? Yeah, we just have to verify who we're talking to so we make sure we have the right investigation going. Do you have your ID? Do you have an ID?
No, I have a military ID.
Is that something that we can see and then we can chat with you? And it's being on the driveway is harder on your... Like, the paperwork we have to notify you of here is a warrant for your arrest.
With a warrant in hand, they confronted him outside his residence. Handcuffs, borrowed from Hutch's stepdad as a symbolic link to Sunnyvale in 1982, were ready.
We're gonna do this right away, right off the bat for you. I'm not gonna let you fall down or anything like that. Go ahead and turn that way and just keep your hands behind your back for you.
Oh no, what happened? What did I do?
It's something that's really old that we would be happy to talk to you about and share more information.
Oh no, what did I do?
Ramirez appeared surprised, but his reaction lacked genuine alarm, the kind of strong denial one would expect from someone truly innocent.
We'll get him to the car and then we'll explain it. We have a warrant for his arrest.
I don't know what I did.
He was escorted away calmly to avoid alarming neighbors and taken to the Maui Police Department for processing. Once there, Hutchison conducted a careful interview. He asked about Ramirez's past, jobs, and places he had lived, without mentioning Karen or Sunnyvale, to see how he would respond naturally.
You're saying it's not you. I want as much explanation for how it's not you as possible so I can go find the guy that it is.
Okay.
My goal in this is not to put the wrong guy in custody.
He appeared relaxed, offering details about his life without hesitation. Hutchison gradually applied pressure. Then, at a critical moment, he introduced a photo of Karen. Ramirez claimed he didn't recognize her.
I don't know who that is.
That's a 15-year-old girl, Gary.
That's all?
As the questioning continued, Hutchison confronted him with the existence of DNA evidence linking him to the case.
Is there any reason you can think of that I would have blood evidence and that blood belongs to you?
I don't know how that would happen.
Ramirez denied any involvement, offering no clear explanation.
Are you curious how she was killed?
That's horrible. How was she killed?
You stabbed her 60 times, Gary.
Oh my God, no, I didn't do anything like that. This is awful, you guys.
Shortly after, he requested an attorney, bringing the interview to an immediate end. Despite the lack of a confession, Hutchison was confident he had the right suspect, but final confirmation was still needed. A final test would decide everything. Investigators collected a cheek swab from Ramirez and rushed it to the lab, where it would be compared directly to the DNA preserved from the crime scene decades earlier. The analysis continued through the night. Then, in the early hours of the morning, the answer finally came back. The profiles matched. After 40 years, the mystery was over. Gary Ramirez was identified as Karen Stitt's killer. The discovery brought a wave of conflicting emotions, relief that the truth had finally been uncovered, and shock at the realization that the person responsible had lived out decades of life, while Karen's future had been taken from her far too soon. The case against Gary Ramirez never went to trial. At 78 years old, he entered court with a cane, gray hair, and glasses, and pleaded no contest to Karen Stitt's murder. He received the maximum sentence for first-degree murder, though he was never separately charged for the assault. For Karen's family, decades of unanswered questions and buried grief came rushing back all at once. Yet, for the first time, there was a sense that the long search for answers had finally reached its end. For Hutchison, solving the case came at a personal cost. The cases stayed with him as he carried the weight of the family's loss. He He also made it clear this wasn't solved alone. In both the Karen Stitt and Estella Mena cases, ordinary people like file clerks, genealogists, and investigators played heroic roles. Their dedication ensured that perpetrators would finally be held accountable, even after many years.
I hope all the Gary Ramirez's of the world and the Samuel Silvas of the world are living in fear for the knock on the door that's coming.
If you want to see more cases like this, subscribe to Crime 13.